HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate.
Hey guys, this is Gabby Douglas. If you have an active lifestyle like me, hydration is key. That's why I love the Hydration Watermelon Smoothie from Smoothie King. Blended with whole fruits, coconut water, and more electrolytes than some of the leading sports drinks. Hydration Watermelon is the cleaner way to hydrate, with no artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. So you can recover and perform at your peak ability during the summer heat. Order online or through the app for pickup or delivery. Smoothie King, rule the day.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business. Whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing, guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of audio entertainment and information. Listen to audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. Get a free book when you sign up for a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast continues to enjoy inclusion on lists of the best podcasts to listen to for small business owners, entrepreneurs, sales professionals, really anybody in the business space who wants to be able to do great things. This is because of the guests who join me to share their expertise with all of you, so you can get the answers, suggestions, tips, ideas, education, whatever it is you need, you can get it here. Today, my guest is Obinna Morton. Obinna is a content writer and entrepreneur. She has a freelance writing business called Turns of Phrase, where she helps businesses tell their stories with content. Thanks so much for joining me today, Obinna.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Happy to have you with me. I love the name of your business, by the way, Turns of Phrase. I think that's really cool. So if you would share with the listeners how content works for their business.
Yeah, sure. So, and then this is just a lot of the things that I've learned, I guess, since starting. So, there are just a few things, or a lot of things that it can do, but a few things that it can do is that it can start to build an emotional connection with whoever is reading whatever you write. So, for example, if you tap into something that a person might have as a frustration or pain point, or something that would make them happier or make them feel like something is exclusive and make them feel special, your words can do that. And there's a source called the Adweek Handbook to Copywriting by a really respected copywriter named Joe Sugarman. And he says that people buy with emotion, but then justify with logic. So a lot of us will use emotion when we are making a purchase and then reason with ourselves with something more logical. Then another thing that content can do is it can start to establish your voice, which is going to be how you express yourself through the written word. So that will be what you say and how you say it. And this is something that can really attract people uniquely to what it is by the way that you use your words to communicate. And then something else which you would likely know very well already is that content can also build authority. So the more of it that you have, you can make it as a source or resource for showing that you're an expert on a particular topic. So if you wanted to write a blog article that would share particular information, or for example, create a case study for somebody or a business that you helped and show the impact you had through the written word, those would just be a few different examples of how you could use content specifically to your advantage as a business owner.
That's so great. I mean, and that's a lot. I don't think people realize how much content can really do for them. I think they sort of pigeonhole, what they think it is. So you said it can establish a business's voice. So
yes.
Can you give us like an example of what that looks like?
Yes, certainly. So when I did a presentation on this, last year, I shared with the audience that I'd spoken to an example of companies like Microsoft and Apple, for example. And it was really interesting because you saw, if you visit their website, you will see how each one communicates very uniquely with their words. So I noticed that Apple had, and I'm sure you will notice too, just by how their advertisements are as well, but they'll have more of an edgy and cool approach to the way that they communicate. And then Microsoft will have a very straightforward, no-frills way of communicating. And so I thought that was interesting, just considering how each of those businesses seems to have that type of quality to them. And so, as we all will have probably Microsoft Office Suite, the idea is that it works. They don't need to do anything to convince us that it works, that it gets the job done as saving our documents on Word. And then Apple, they just always have that innovative, creative thing about them. So it's just really cool. If you take a look at their websites, you can see that.
Yeah, those are great examples. It's interesting because they're really speaking, they technically provide the same sort of value, but the way they communicate with their audience is different based on who they are, right? Is that what that pretty much is all about?
Yeah, I think it would be who they are. And I also think it's interesting too, because you will see also kind of the differences in maybe even the life stories of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, kind of almost projected. I mean, this is my unique interpretation, I guess. Just the more you can see how just one has more of a, clearly works with very innovative creators and wants to emphasize that. And then, Bill Gates, I guess what everybody knows about his story is, he had a very straight line story of dropping out of Harvard at, I don't know how far he went or anything, but I just thought one is just has that more creative edge to it. And then they both work beautifully. They both work beautifully in terms of just getting the point across.
Yeah, and that's really the key, is that there isn't a wrong one, as long as you're speaking in your voice, that's what's right.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that, you might have both products, maybe a Microsoft product or an Apple product, and as long as each of them works, does it really matter? But then it will attract a certain type of person as well. So that is part of it too. I guess people who are drawn to certain types of communication. So I guess that would be an example of the voice that we can all have. Yeah.
Okay, so can you give the listeners some tips when they're writing their website copy?
Yes, sure. So I'm actually currently going through like a self-learning phase even more with copywriting, and so this is fresh information. So there are a few examples. So you could, as you would guess, when we're doing our Google searches and when we get to a website, we're going to be scanning it, and we're not necessarily going to be reading everything word for word. So you're going to want to format your web copy for scannability. So that means things like bullet points. Some people will even bold text to highlight important points, which adds some visual variety for our eyes too. And then another tip would be to use headings and subheads, just so that you can also organize the information visually. You can add images and pictures. So there is a study that was conducted in 2011 on the content marketing platform Skyward, and it said that content with images get 94% more page views. So images add more to your website in terms of having it more accessible to people and people wanting to view it more. And then also just how we addressed the voice idea, and how a lot of places and businesses will be just very adamant about their unique way of communicating. You also have the opportunity to use that and highlight that throughout your web pages and humanize your message by having a unique personality to the way you communicate. And a copywriter by the name of Nikita Morel, she recently did 30 website fixes for architecture firms. She focuses on architecture firms. And she suggested in one of her YouTube videos to blend personable with professional, to have that nice blend of human with you get things done. So those would be a few tips for web copy.
Yeah, those are great. And I think that last one is something that a lot of people struggle with, figuring out where that line is on the personal side, right? So that they don't go too personal to a place that is not still also professional.
Yes. And that can be definitely difficult. And in her video, she gave some really great examples of firms that were doing that, just blending, figuring out a way to toe the line in a safe way without making it seem like you are saying too much or not projecting the type of image that you still need to protect. So that is something. And I guess a tip for this would be to check out different websites, which is something I'm doing now. Looking at different websites that you like and really just using that as inspiration to start to not quite copy, obviously, but emulate some of the way that they communicate as well. So that's a tip I have that I'm using for myself as I rework my own website.
Yeah, I like that, because really you're just finding what resonates with you, and then using the same sort of style. So, if you're wondering how to do it, that's great. Okay, what about when someone's writing a newsletter?
Yeah, sure. So newsletters, it's something that people will do, I know, for email marketing, which is a term that's just really popular. And I have a few different tips. So first would be to find an interesting subject line. And it's something that we will all look at the subject line. And then also there will usually be those first few words after that you can usually see in your inbox too, because you can focus on the subject line and just the first sentence or two to make sure that those are noteworthy and eye-catching. And what you can do for this is to take a look at subject lines that are in your own email and see which ones it intrigued you enough to click on them, and use those as inspiration as well. So there's a lot to our disposal already to use as, let's say, fodder inspiration for our writing. So that'll be the first tip. Another tip would be to make the writing concise and use white space. Just like when we're doing web copy or any type of internet writing, just our eyes are going to look at things in a way that scans rather than reads a novel or a Harry Potter story or something. And then third will be to share useful information. And I guess this would be self-explanatory, but if the information is going to be helpful to us, that is definitely something that allows people to, I would say, keep that information, store that information, and then not delete or unsubscribe. for me personally, the newsletters that I really love are ones that really connect with me on an emotional level, and then also get really good and helpful information. And yeah, those would be just a few tips.
Those are great. Those are great. Okay, now I'm curious about creating blog articles. What are some tips for that?
Okay, great. So this is going to be really fun because blogging it's an interesting format because you don't have to be necessarily too formal, but you can also be formal. It's something that has a range of ways to approach it. So after you figure out, which way that you want to approach it, a few tips would be to be sure to have a catchy headline. So again, it should be useful and clear and to the point. And there are plenty of resources out there in terms of figuring out different headline formulas. And I would suggest a website called Copyblogger with some writers named Sonia, Simone, and Brian Clark. And then I also found a really great article by a marketer named Neil Patel, who has great information on blogging headlines in particular. And a few tips that he gave were to use specific numbers, so like 5 secrets for the perfect about page, for example, and then use adjectives. So like when somebody says, 5 simple ways, yada, yada, yada. Or then you can also use tips, lessons, ideas, secrets, strategies, principles, and that type of approach. So like 7 lessons to great copywriting, or 7 simple lessons for great copywriting is something that I recently wrote on my Medium page. So something of that nature. Oh yes, two more tips also would be to add subheads. So you're going to want to divide up the information again so that it's scannable and easy to read. And like a headline should be useful, the content itself should be useful too. And one way to do this is to brainstorm different ideas and ideas that go into your own experience as an entrepreneur. So you could share things about your story that could let somebody connect a little bit more to you. You could share about obstacles that you've overcome. People definitely, if somebody is an entrepreneur also, could also learn from that information. And then you could also share information that you would naturally just know as an expert or somebody that knows a lot about something in your particular niche. So that's a lot, I know, but those are just a few tips for blogging.
Those are great. Thanks. They're terrific. One of the things I like about them is people can, about these tips is that people can pick, they hear them and they go, okay, well, that I can go do right now. So, because these are really good. They're very nice and specific. Okay, I'm going to take a quick sponsor break, and then I have some more questions for you.
Okay, all right, sure. Thanks.
Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast is happy to be sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken digital audio entertainment and information. They have over 150,000 titles to choose from, and you can listen to them on any device, including whatever you're hearing us on right now. And if you sign up at our link, which is audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, you get 1 free audiobook and a 1-month trial of the service. Some examples of books you can listen to on audible.com are Do Business Better by Damian Mason and Breathe to Succeed by Sandy Abrams. So visit audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. Explore the books that are of interest to you and receive 1 free audiobook when you sign up for the trial. Today we're speaking with Obinna Morton about how to market like a boss. Okay, so we talked about web copy, newsletters, blog articles. I see a lot of people creating infographics, and they're sort of a mystery to me. So I'm wondering if you can share some ideas around how to create those.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so these are very, very fun. They remind me of hieroglyphs, quite honestly, just how pictures have the power to tell different stories. And so just a quick thing to note is that, and I'll just, so you might want to know why this would be beneficial to you. Just according to research called the pictorial superiority effect, when you pair text with a complementing image, a person will remember 65% after 3 days instead of just 10% without an image. So there is a real benefit for a person to have an image with text, and infographics is that thing that can help you to have information be retained more often. So a few tips for this would be to, and I think I use this with newsletters, but to keep text concise. And the reason for this in particular is because when you have images that are paired with this text, you're actually not going to need to write nearly as much because the pictures are going to be able to tell some of the story and move it along. The second tip is going to be to develop a headline, and that's going to be similar to blogging. And there are, to add an additional tip that you can use for any type of headline that you're going to be writing. There are a lot of headline generators out there, and just to give you a couple so that if you want to use these to come up with different ideas that you'd like to use for your headlines, there's a title generator called titlegenerator.com, SEOpresser.com, and impactbnd.com. And so you just put in a keyword, and then it will think of snazzy titles that you can use for yourself.
Wow.
Then, yes, so there's a lot out there that will just get you going without even you really having to think about it too much. And then the very last tip I'm going to add is that you should be sure to find images in a template that fit your message. So that is self-explanatory, right? You would just assume that you would put the right image and the right template that would, fit whatever topic you're talking about. But things can kind of get a little confusing because something like color, for example, is going to be something that you'll want to think about because certain colors give off certain messages or certain vibes. So you just want to make sure that you're able to think about the little key details that exist so that you can communicate the message more clearly or most clearly without anything interfering with that. And again, that's a lot, I know, but free tips.
That's okay. That's great. That's wonderful. Okay. Now, what about ebooks? Those seem to be very popular as well.
Yes, ebooks are very popular, and I know a lot of people will use something like this for a lead magnet to grow their email list. And I know I have a lot of ebooks just from giving my email and getting some really great information from these books. So a few things to do if you are a person that wants to create an ebook. First off to know is that it's just going to be generally longer than a blog post because it's going to be, like a book and take a little bit more time to create. The first tip is going to be to choose the topic. And a topic that will be good will be a topic that you have experience with. So if you have experience helping another person or maybe your origin story, obstacles that you have overcome, and again, expert information that you know in your particular field or niche. Maybe you've used social media to get customers. I know a lot of people have done stuff like this, or tips in your skill set. And that would just be an example of how you can determine a topic. The second tip would be to find a time and a place that works for you. So that would be just based on what your unique schedule, your unique schedule would be for you and what would fit best for you. And then when you're writing, a good idea is to also write without really judging what you write, kind of just get everything out onto the page without editing, because it's going to just add more time, and it's easy to always find mistakes when you already don't have your thoughts completely together. So just don't be afraid to make mistakes and just say everything you need to say before looking over it to make sure you say it the right way. And then the third tip is going to be to, with whatever you say, it's just always a good idea, like we learned in high school and college with research papers, to do research, add research to the points that you are purporting or saying in this ebook. And then in addition, add things that serve as metrics for your particular experience. So if you have data or statistics or case studies that can support what you say, to add more credibility to what you're saying and just make it that much stronger or that much better. And yes, that would be it for ebooks.
Great. Okay. Now, what about news releases?
Sure. Okay, so news releases. So I have written quite a few of these. So this is just going to be based off of, my experience with writing them and then doing a little bit of distribution. And so I'm going to add some information from a book that I read earlier on as I started called The Beginner's Guide to Writing Powerful Press Releases. So just watch out for that, I guess. So the first thing is going to be to figure out what the news is that you're sharing. And this guide gives a really great list of, has to be maybe 100 or so ideas of what you could share information about. And a few ideas that they have are to share that you have added a new product or service. If you have a new website upgrade, for example, if you've done charity work, if you're getting an award or hosting a webinar or seminar. And I even recently wrote a news release for an entrepreneur in Atlanta on a webinar that they were hosting. So that is definitely one I've done before. And then the second tip will be to don't forget about the local outlets that exist. There are a lot of places that you can send this news release to that would still be interested in what you're saying. So that means like local television stations, radio stations, publications in your area. And it's easy to forget about, I guess you could say, like, quote unquote, the little people, but who doesn't get excited by still being featured in local publications, especially if you're in the earlier stages? That's really noteworthy and credibility building, and also just feels really great to be recognized, no matter if it's local or national or international as an outlet. And the very last tip I've got for you is to include facts. So while news releases do have that kind of promotional element to them, you should still support the information with facts and any type of research that would fit along with what you're saying. So what that does is that definitely connects what you are saying to something bigger than your immediate business and connects it to something that is happening in the wider world. So then that also shows that you have the potential to make an even wider impact of whatever it is that you're sharing, because I would say that it's bigger than just yourself. And that would be it. Those 3 tips for when you are writing a news release.
Terrific. Thank you. Well, this is an awful lot of information. I so appreciate it. It was funny at the beginning when you were saying, okay, that's a lot of information. It is,
Yeah.
But it's tremendously valuable because, people know they need to be providing content, but if they're not writers by nature, or if they haven't gone to school to learn about copywriting and writing and content and all of that, it can be sort of scary and overwhelming. So I really appreciate this information because it gives people some very specific information about how they can start, and the things that they can do, and especially, for the different areas. So they can pick one, like they could say, I want to start blogging, and they could make that happen and have a pretty good idea of, okay, what do they need to be doing with that thing? So thank you very much for this.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I just know that, in my opinion, I think writing is something that you will not always think about, and it just has so much going on with it that I feel like anybody can do it, but it just takes time and practice.
Yeah.
So, so I think this information is just stuff that anybody can put into action. So hopefully it can be useful.
I agree with you. I agree. And I think you've given it to us in a way that shows that, that it doesn't feel as overwhelming as it might have before we started this conversation.
Okay.
So will you tell the listeners how they can find you and what you've got going on, please?
Yeah, sure. So it's just a simple, I won't say just, right? There's so many articles about don't say just, but it is a simple, it's a simple freelance writing business. So I basically just tell people stories or whatever angles that they want to approach with writing and content, which will also include something like images as well, I guess. So you can find me you can find my website at www.turntophraise.com. And I do have some images to make it more readable. And then my email address is going to be my name minus the O, So Obinna, B as in boy, I as in ice, N as in Nancy, N as in Nancy, and A as in apple at turnthephrase.com. And that's TURNSOFPHRASE.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn, so just in the show notes or whatever, you can see how my name is spelled, which I know is probably it's not going to be easy, I guess, to just automatically know. And that's
it'll be easy. They can do.
Yeah, so that's it. Obinna Morton, Obinna.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's great. And listeners, thank you. If you've been struggling with trying to figure out what you should be doing with your content, this was a great episode for you to be listening to. And if you know someone who has been struggling with that, please share this episode with them as well. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Audible.com. To get a free trial of Audible.com and a free audiobook, just go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth to sign up. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
Full send with the driver? Check. Piercing iron through the wind? Check. Low checker, high spinner, flop to a tight pin? Check, check, and check. No matter what shot you need to pull off, there's one ball that's better for them all. The all-new TP5 and 5X from TaylorMade. With a newly redesigned dimple pattern, engineered for more distance, more control around the green, and better stability in the wind, it's the hottest tour ball in golf. So no matter what shot you face, there's one ball that's better for all. The TP5 and 5X from TaylorMade. Full send with the driver? Check. Piercing iron through the wind? Check. Low checker, high spinner, flop to a tight pin? Check, check, and check. No matter what shot you need to pull off, there's one ball that's better for them all. The all-new TP5 and 5X from TaylorMade. With a newly redesigned dimple pattern, engineered for more distance, more control around the green, and better stability in the wind, it's the hottest tour ball in golf. So no matter what shot you face, there's one ball that's better for all. The TP5 and 5X from TaylorMade.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I want to tell you about my podcast called Can I Offer You Some Feedback? I'm a business consultant and executive coach with over 20 years experience in change management, leadership development, and naturally providing feedback to high performers. My podcast is for those of you who have a complicated relationship with feedback, whether giving, receiving, avoiding, or seeking. Feedback is essential for our development. In each episode, you'll hear from real people across industries with their ideas, perspectives, and best practices on feedback. I'll also be sharing business bites with you, simple explanations of organizational tools, management techniques, and leadership philosophies that will help you and your businesses thrive. You can listen to Can I Offer You Some Feedback on your favorite podcast app or learn more at evergreenpodcasts.com.